Right. How am I doing? Uh, right as I'm about to start streaming, I always get messages from my family that make me distracted. So, anyways, so yeah, for this live stream, I thought it would be fun to kind of show you guys my process for creating VFX for my game. I am by no means a VFX artist. I am actually pretty shit at creating VFX. And I thought that would be all the more interesting to watch. So, um, in particular, the VFX I'm going to be creating right now are, or I've kind of created already. I'm just kind of polishing them up. Is it's a force field sort of that goes over my meteors when my routes mode starts. So maybe I'll give you kind of a lay of the land of what the VFX is currently in the game, uh, and how I'm improving it, or where it is currently, the placeholder one, and how I'm improving it. So let's jump over to my screen. Okay, so I'm going to fire this up. So if you guys aren't using GitKraken, you should be because it's the bee's knees. And yeah, I love it. And if you guys aren't using work trees, also I would recommend it. It is a little bit wonky right now, but it's pretty great. Essentially, it allows you to, I know this isn't really pertaining to VFX, but essentially what a work tree allows you to do is it allows you to have sort of three branches side by side, all in the same local repo. So, for example, um, normally, the way you would solve this sort of problem is you would have, let's say, if it's a Unity project, you'd have three sort of Unity projects or repositories all living side by side. Um, with a work tree, you have one repository and then sort of three work trees. So I have my create the final visual effects for routes force field work tree, right? And you know what? I'm not going to go too far into that. Bottom line, you should look into work trees. It's pretty dang good, and GitKraken makes it a lot more accessible. But yeah, I'm going to fire up my uh, force field VFX branch here. And before I show you the VFX, I'm going to show you guys kind of where these things are taking place, or where they're like where I need to update. So I've showed off my routes game mode before. I'll show it off again so you guys can get a kind of lay of the land. But let's see. I'm going to add my desktop audio, even though that might be not the smartest thing. We'll see. And let's see. Let me see if it's loud as hell. I have my phone running my live stream here. Sorry, guys. Just want to make sure that my volume is not completely overpowering. I think it probably might be. I know on my end it's loud. Let's see. This is how you do it. This is how all the professionals do it. They have their live stream running on their phone. And then they check it during the live stream like this. Oh, okay. It's actually pretty seems pretty good. Okay. So anyways, moving back to this. Um so I'm gonna go over to let's just do 0 routes easy. All right. So this, you'll see how my meteor flies in, and then you'll see. I don't know why I'm pausing here. Oh, you know what? I just realized it's because um, on this branch, I'm working on the goal meteor force field effects. So I'll open up another one that isn't. So this is kind of what I was talking about with work trees. You'll see I have three of my game: Command Center Earth Feature 2, Command Center Earth, and Command Center Earth Feature 1. So the regular Command Center Earth, if I go jump over to this one, you'll see it's running on my master branch. So if I open that up, my master branch is always stable. Um, you guys get all kinds of useful little info here for working on your projects when you tune into my live stream. So if you guys aren't already uh, ensuring that your master branch or your main branch is stable, do it. Please do it. Not for me, do it for you. Okay? I see far too many people, and I was one of these people way back in the day. You um you don't really have a branching methodology, and that's okay. But I'm trying to tell you you should, because it will make your life easier when you're building out your game in the long run. So if your main or master branch is always stable and always bug free, whenever that you need to deploy a release or you need to check something out on your game, you always know all I need to do is go to my latest master point, check that out, and everything's good. Sorry about that. I just punched my mic. Um, yeah, everything's good. It means that you can show that version off. You can do just what I'm doing now, right? I can say, oh, I had a problem on this feature branch. I'm just going to go to the latest master point and show off the game at that point, because I know main master is always stable. Um, so yeah, I'm just checking my live stream, making sure everything's good. Okay, so all that said, now I'm on main. You'll see here, main. Um, Actually, I think that's my scene. I like how I thought that was my branch name, but I'm on my master branch right now. So when I um go to demo this, in theory, if I've taken my own advice, everything should work. I'm drinking green tea today, guys, because I've had already too much coffee. Hopefully my mic is not sounding like trash right now, because if it is, um, later I'm gonna look at my stream and be sad. Okay. Cool. So everything's working as it should. Um, I'll do this. If you guys don't know about this Unity bug, really annoying. Essentially, when you go to scale up, you just have to go boop. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong bug. There's another bug that the scale always goes kind of like weird, and you have to readjust it. We won't get into that. Okay, so back to 0, back to routes, easy, and now no errors should occur because I'm on master, and they're not. Okay, so here we are, finally where we need to be. So these effects I'm gonna recreate. This sort of force field, this is what I'm working on recreating, and um, you'll see this is my game mode. Essentially, you want to collect these in order. Oh, I love that sound effect. Ooh. Easier said than done. There was a small flex there at the end. Yes. What can I say? It's my game. I play it a lot. Okay, so that's the VFX that I'm working on recreating. So specifically, what I'm working on recreating is this actual red boundary. I'm redoing. It looks completely different. I'll show it off in a second. As far as like what it looks like now, and then I have 3 effects that I need to actually, technically 4 effects that I need to create for this force field. I need to create the activate, I need to create the deactivate, I need to create the active, and I need to create the break. So let me show you guys. Actually, let me see if there's anybody on the stream. Probably not. It was random. Oh, you know what? I need to sign into chat. Let me put you guys on hold real quick while I sign in again, because I don't want you to see my sign-in details, okay? All right, there we are. Okay, so, Oh, where were we? Okay, so 4 effects. So we have the activate, the deactivate, the active, and then the break. I'm going to show you guys when each effect occurs um, as I play it. Okay, so I'm just going to explode. I'll go back here and I'll show you. I'll demonstrate. Okay, so 0. If I go to routes and then easy. Okay, so The activate, as you would imagine, happens when the force field gets activated. So right now you'll see it just kind of pops in. Um, I want a nice smooth little effect to occur when that happens. So that's the first one. I'll just show off right now. Okay, so I launch. You'll see this meteor flies in, camera goes in, and then boom, you see it just popped in right there. Instead of popping in, activate should occur, right? So there should be some fancy animation that makes the force field come to life. You'll notice if I crash into this force field, I just die, as you would expect. So that's the first one. Active is what you're looking at right now. So active, you see, I already have kind of an active VFX, which is like this. These lines are crawling along, and there's some pulsating, but you can't see it on the red because it's just, it's placeholder. So that's the second one, which is active, and then deactivate happens right here. Well, that's when it would happen when you go back. It should dissipate when I go back to go to the main menu, right? And then the last but not least is going to be break. So I technically didn't need break, but I thought it would be more fun, right? You always want to give more feedback. Part of what makes a game fun is you want to give feedback in important moments to players because that feedback makes them feel like they have power. Okay, right? Like you give them a little bit of power, a little bit of like you did something. Okay, and whenever you do that, that's just an easy way to add a little. They call that juice, let's say, um, and it just makes things sound more fun or feel more fun. So one example of this would be the pitch on my collectibles changes, right? Right? So that pitch change is like you did something more, you did something more, right? If I didn't have that pitch shift, it's just a little less, you get a little less power, a little less influence, right? So you just, it doesn't feel as good. So all that said, that break VFX or those break VFX um, on the force field, another piece of feedback, right? So when you collect all those, it's like you did something, right? I could deactivate it the same way I would do when I go back to my meteor select, but that would just be a little less fun. So I'll show you when those break VFX would happen. Um, so they would happen, as you could imagine, when I collect the last of these collectibles. So right there when it popped off, instead of deactivate, it should sort of break. So now that you know the four VFX that I am gonna work on, I'll actually show you guys what they look like. So you'll notice too, one cool thing about these sort of workspaces is I have my Command Center Earth, yada yada yada. I have one of my projects open, which is the master branch, which you know, I'm going to, oh, okay, yeah. So what I'll do is I'm just going to throw this on another desktop. Let's see, where are you? Command Center main. Okay, so, and then I have uh, feature two. Okay, so this is the one that I want to be on. So before I jump into this, I was going to show you guys how these VFX look before I even show them working. So I do a lot of my stuff now in Figma because Figma's the shit if you guys aren't using it. Another great tool. Like Figma is genuinely an incredible tool. Um, so if you're not using it, I highly recommend you use it. So the VFX, first off, the visuals for the VFX that have changed are these. So can't speak properly today. So the old VFX now look like this. So let me actually pop back to, or you guys already saw them, so I don't need to go back. But those old bounded sort of angled barrier is now a circle and now has these sort of diagonal lines. Um, and it has this sort of frustrum, or what would you call that? Like gradient, right? Transparent gradient that pops outwards. So this is sort of through a lot of iteration, as you can see. So the old one kind of looked more like this one here. Through a lot of iteration, I've come up with this one that I like, right? So another reason why you're tuning into these live streams is because you get to see the process, right? I like how I say why you're tuning into these live streams as if I do them regularly. I don't do them super regularly. Unfortunately, I'm not, I'm not a YouTube star. I don't have regular content. Maybe I should be. but whenever I have time, I always think it's fun to kind of share the process with you guys and share what I'm working on. So yeah, let me, if you guys just heard me slurping, I'm sorry for those of you that hate that sound. Um, yeah, anyways, so these are all of the iterations that I went through. Um, yeah, it's kind of fun to look at this. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit of like what was going through my mind. Actually, let me check to see. No chat. Okay, no worries. Just want to make sure there's nobody commenting with questions. So yeah, so a little bit was going through my mind when I was creating this, by the way, is, and I just thought it would be interesting to share this with you guys. So the whole thing with my game, there's sort of like a whole story that doesn't necessarily get conveyed to the player, but that story helps a lot when you're creating effects, when you're creating sprites, when you're creating a lot of stuff. So another game designy tip for you guys is you don't need a story. But if you have one, if you have sort of a just a backstory or a sort of game design document or whatever it may be, the cool thing is that it answers a lot of questions for you in the long run, such as if you're creating a sprite and you're like, how should this look? Yeah, you could certainly reference your other sprites and say this is the style, but part of what helps you answer questions about VFX, sprites, all these things is you have a sort of story that either is conveyed in the game or is conveyed through small, art pieces or elements or whatever it may be without you explicitly saying it. So in my game, you are remotely controlling this missile. Nobody really kind of knows that, but it kind of gets conveyed through certain effects. So if I pop back over to my game, um, the way that it kind of works is that you're in Earth. There's a command center of all of the world's top people. They all came together to try to defend Earth from these meteors. Okay? And the way that they're doing that is they're sending remote missiles out to destroy these meteors. Okay? So, nobody really knows that, but it kind of comes through in the interface too, right? So for me, uh, the way I see it is you sort of have like this terminal, right? Like you are the pilot, right? The when you fire up my game, and that sort of backstory comes through in that like you're viewing like you're viewing the missile you're going to control through this terminal on Earth, and yeah, I know it sounds like a lot of nonsense, but it really helps answer these questions, right? So like all this green, it's inspired by like old school terminals and stuff like that. And when we go to see the actual effects, when you're controlling a missile, so if we just go to the standard mode, you'll see like if I go closer to the edge, da da da, right? You'll see I have this sort of green static, right? Losing signal. It's like, hey, you're on Earth, you're controlling this remote missile, and you're losing signal because it's going too far. You lost signal. That missile's gone. Just punched my mic again. So why did I decide to do the VFX that way, or the VFX that way for losing signal? It's because I had this backstory, right? So I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool if I had like the static, like you can't communicate your controls to that missile, and it just answered that question. So for my VFX for my routes mode, the backstory for my routes mode is like, okay, so pilots are not really trying to uh completely like eliminate the meteor at this point, but it's sort of like this training mode, right? That pilots use to get better, right? And so this force field isn't necessarily like a force field. It's like the command center has created this training routes mode, and that's kind of put this like overlay over this virtual overlay that is kind of saying you can't go here in this training mode until you collect all of these beacons, right? Um, and that's why these little green, if we were to go back, diamonds, they don't have to be anything crazy. They're just virtual collectibles for the pilots to collect so that they can get better at training, right? So yeah, and this is kind of just like a little overlay that says you can't go here until you collect all of these things. Anyways, Nobody ever asked for all that backstory, but all that to just say that when you're creating these VFX, the things that I've learned about creating VFX and or sprites and or UI and or even especially when you're working with other people is it's really nice to sort of have a backstory because it answers a lot of these questions. So the reason I came up or finalized this one is just because I thought it looked the coolest, and also um, this sort of reminded me of this sort of like there was like this digital. I remember from old movies of the past that like the caution tape that police put over right, like when there's like a homicide or whatever it may be, they put the caution tape. I forget what movie it was from, maybe Minority Report or whatever. They had that sort of they had like virtual caution tape, and the lines sort of moved along. And I always thought that was really cool, and that's kind of why I have this like warning here, right? Because this is sort of like not a physical force field; it's kind of like a virtual one. So that was kind of now that I've said all this, now I'll kind of show you the VFX I've sort of came up with and how they um, work. So yada yada yada. Let's move back over to the game. Okay, so let me open these up and I'll show them off. Where are you? Scenes. Here you are. Tests. No. Tests. VFX. Meteor. A visual test. Oof. Oh my God. My brain not working today. Okay. So, force field VFX. So you can kind of already see that this line moves. I guess I'll show you guys shader graph because that's what I use to create a lot of this stuff. Okay, first off, let me just say, I remember back in the days to look at this shit and I used to be so overwhelmed to be like, oh my God, how the fuck do people do this? Right? Like this is amazing. I just want you guys to know where I've come from. And this is by no means amazing, incredible. I'm not trying to give myself a ton of credit or whatever. Uh, the reason I'm saying this is because I created a few effects for my game using shader graph, and it really kind of opened the door for me to be like, oh, I can do other effects. I kind of have a general idea of how this stuff works, but I am by no means a wizard. Okay. It's really just kind of tackling one problem at a time. This is not my strong suit. Whoever is a VFX master, they're probably gonna look at this shit and laugh. But you know what? It works. And yeah, pretty proud of how it came out. So, all that to say, you can do it too. Cool. So, I kind of have three main things for the shader, and I'm not even using one of them because it was just not working the way I wanted to, but it kind of had a general, it generally worked well, but I had a better solution. So, this dashed line is the first component that I'm not using, but you'll see, like, essentially, I'm just using polar coordinates. I'm not going to go into all of this, but essentially, I'm kind of going through um, creating this sort of rippled pattern, and then I sort of uh, cut it off using step, and then I create these lines. At the end of the day, I decided to not use this because it didn't connect end to end the way I wanted it to. So instead, I'm using the amazing shapes asset from Brea, I believe her name is. She does some pretty incredible shit with Unity, and she's a math wizard. You guys should check her out if you haven't. So, yeah, so you'll see I'm using shapes for the outline, right? Even though I have it kind of working in the shader. And yeah, so this is just kind of a temporary solution that worked better. But for the actual lines, I created that in here, or the stripes. So we have for the stripes, I'm doing that in here. This is another piece, right? Da, da, da. I won't go in too much into how this all works, but yeah, I'm creating stripes. Essentially, I'm saying like I could use any two colors. One of them is like a transparent red, and one of them is a regular red. Right now, it's outputting blue just because it was easier for visually debugging for me within the shader. And then the final piece is I have this. This actually I have two. Yeah. Okay. So I have this inner outline right here. You can see, but it's a little bit more transparent. in the final version. And then I have a radial mask. So this is sort of that mask that makes it look a little more transparent on the inside. Okay, so um yeah, all this to say, it's not it looks really crazy, but really guys, I just took this shit one step at a time. With every fucking problem I came across, I went to ChatGPT and I was like, here's the problem I'm having. What would you recommend? Another great tool is, if you guys aren't using it, Shader Toy is incredible. Um, yeah, it's just a really incredible tool that you can look at other people's shader code. I just used any tool I could at my disposal to try to figure out how to get what I was after. Okay, so if this shit overwhelms you, just take it one step at a time. Look at YouTube videos. Go to ChatGPT. Like, it's a it's okay to sort of copy and paste, and over time that stuff will start to seep in. That makes no sense. Kind of does. I don't know. And then you'll slowly start to grasp it, right? So if you don't understand it all at first, that's okay, because later on you'll start to grasp it more and more and more until you realize, you'll look at the stuff and you'll say, oh, I can have a general idea of how this all works. Yada yada yada. Okay, so that is the first part of my visual effects, is creating the shader, because once I had this shader, now I can animate the shader's properties. Okay, so I have colors that I can animate. I have the sort of stripe size. So let me, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not going to delete any of this stuff. So if you guys are not using a version control system, please, please use a version control system. Use a visual overlay on top of a version control system to make it easy. You don't have to use the fucking terminal. You don't have to be a terminal wizard, okay? You don't. Who cares? If you do the terminal, amazing. And sometimes I use the terminal when I need to get really in the weeds. But for the most part, you could just use something like GitKraken or whatever works for you, and it's way simpler, and it will make your life, it'll make things so much easier, guys, because if you lose your work, it sucks ass. Okay, it really does. um so anyway, so I'm gonna just go in to my feature 2, and what I'm gonna just do is I'm just gonna commit all this just in case, so I can show some things off. Okay, so work in progress. I'm gonna commit this, and then I'm gonna jump back. Okay, so the first thing that you can do with my shader, you can see it's already kind of, the speed is at 0.2 for my movement of the stripe. But if I were to like dial this up, I can make it move faster. You'll see it's kind of wild how quick that moves. So I don't want to do that. 0.2 seemed to work. I can change the sort of the stripe density, right? So I'm going to actually set that to 2, but I can change the stripe density. Bada bing, bada boom, right? Um, I can rotate the stripes too, right? Which is kind of cool. So you don't need to do all this stuff if you're creating a shader, by the way. It's just that for me, it's cool because then I can animate all these properties for my VFX. So, um, yeah, that's what I'm showing. That's why I exposed these parameters and I did certain things in the shader, because then I could do all this dynamically, procedurally. So then, yeah, I said I can control the size. I can control the move speed. I can control. So if you see, there's this inner bound. So I can control that inner bound, right? I can make it a little more thick. So you could see, like, if I were to go just a little bit more in, right? Whoop, whoop, whoop. That's kind of cool. I don't know. And then I can control the masking radius. So this is where things get a little bit sort of funky. Da da da. So I can, there's another, like, essentially I have the radius and the hardness that you can control for the mask radius. I can control the colors. Yeah. So essentially I can make this like a yellow, right? And this like a blue, but the mask obviously is gonna uh, be a factor here, right, of what you see. Um, but yeah, you can see, yeah, and then you can see like the scale could come in or out or any of this crazy stuff, right? Right? So I'm just gonna check real quick. Yeah. Okay. So um, all this to say, I can control a lot of stuff using the shader, which is pretty cool. Um, Now let me actually show you guys my VFX that I've come up with. So let me save those, jump back here, and then what I'm gonna do, this is why I use version control, guys. This is the amazing thing. I just go like this. I don't like any of the things that I just set. So if you guys aren't using version control, um, you'll see this is showing me the difference of what I had on the shader before and what I have now. I said save project, so it's showing me, hey, these are the updated settings. I could say, no, 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 I don't want any of this. Discard it all. I'm going to go back. I'm going to press Control R to reload Unity, and boom, it's back to what it was. So hopefully that gives you a little taste of why version control is so helpful, right? Even in your everyday workflow. So now I'm going to fire up the actual tester scene, and I'm going to show off my effects. And one of the big things I need to sort of do today is, um, so I've experimented with a lot of ways to do visual effects. Um, and there is pros and cons to each approach. I have not really landed on a great approach yet. I'm sure there's a wizard that can tell me the best approach, but I'm just kind of working with each thing's strengths and weaknesses. So right now, my VFX are being driven with the Unity animator. Okay, so one of the strengths of the Unity animator that's great is you can essentially anything that you see in the inspector you can animate, and that's pretty amazing because you don't have to build out any custom tools or anything like that to do this stuff. So if I normally I lean heavily on dot tween or do tween, um, but the problem with do tween is that you have to essentially script out all that stuff, and the iteration time when you're doing something visual just takes forever, and I don't love that. So I then moved over to using Feel because I think Feel does a great job too of creating these sort of feedbacks. So you could see this is like another way to do it. You could set an animation using Feels, and actually let me show you guys if you're not using Feel. It's a great tool. But Feel, you have to, if you want to animate something custom, you have to create a custom script for it. And it honestly doesn't take a ton of time, but it just wasn't what I wanted to use to just tweak these things to get them to a point where I was happy. So that's another way you can do it. So I'm just showing off real quick some tools for VFX that I've kind of experimented with. So you have Feel, you have Do Tween. Um, so actually, let me show off the Unity Asset Store page. So if you guys aren't using Do Tween, incredible tool. I use it all the time. I've also heard Prime Tween is really great. But yeah, so Feel is another really incredible asset. Do Tween. So all these things, obviously, you can use. Something like VFX Graph. I have very little experience with VFX Graph currently, but the Unity particle system I use a lot too. Just really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Um, so these are some good tools. But the plus, like I said, of the Unity Animator is that what you see is what you can get. So if you see a parameter, right, such as a shader parameter, you can just animate it. So you guys hopefully can see that um, currently, let me go back. You can see the first of my 4 effects. So you saw activate. So if I click activate, you'll see it comes in. If I click deactivate, it comes out. So that is my activate VFX. So you'll see when the meteor flies in and the routes mode starts, that activate would play. When I go back into the meteor select, the deactivate would play. And then you'll see I have the active running currently. So you'll see it's just crawling along, and these stripes are sort of moving along. And the fourth one is break, which I haven't quite settled on. These I think are more or less done. I'll kind of dive into the animations in a second if you're interested. The fourth is break. So if I press break, you'll see it kind of, right? So sorry guys. My brain my brain is blanking right now. So that one break, I have it working so that it pops out and it pops back in just so that I can test it. but I'm not completely happy with it just yet. I need to probably tweak it a little bit more. But I think it looks decent. And especially with the sound effect behind it, I think it'll look pretty good. So yeah, so let me jump into a few of these animations real quick for you guys. So the activate, and actually, if you guys are curious too, part of the shortcoming of the animator, the animations tool in Unity, God, I can name a million things I hate about it. I sorry Unity, but it is a pain in the ass to work with. Um, However, I will say Unity is already creating a new animation tool. They have been creating one for a while. Kudos Unity. But one of those things too is that because I'm not an animator, I lean very heavily on different easing curves to make things look nice. And I was searching for a tool that would allow me to just say like, "Yo, I want this specific curve." So let's say where's something that I can demo here. Okay, so this curve. So this curve is my rotation on my uh, stripes, right? So the way my stripes kind of rotate in, you see how it's kind of a nice ease. I leaned on Curve Master. So with Curve Master, I can say like, yo, make this um, do a sort of basic court ease. So I could say, boom, right? Make that a court, or make this a quint ease, or make this a quint out, or in rather. Um, So it is super useful to be able to do that. I'm really glad I found this tool just because I want to sort of support local asset developers because, it's great when you find a great tool. I'll show that off too. So Curve Master Asset Store Unity, da, da, da. Okay, so that's this tool, which I've been using. I just started using it actually for these VFX because I really wanted to start using, or I wanted to use the animator just because I felt like the iteration time is so much faster, and then I felt like once I got it to a good place, I could move it over to something like VTween or Feel. But yeah, it essentially just allows you to sort of tweak these animations more easily. So this is another great tool. It's called Curve Master. So moving back over here, just to jump into each one of these real quick, I'll show off what I'm doing for each one of these VFX. So for the activate, what I'm doing is I'm animating the scale with the sort of what is this curve? I don't know. It's probably a sort of cubic ease. So the scale of the force field comes in, boom, and then it kind of right, it comes in real quick. The scale comes in real quick, and then it sort of like pops out and then slows down. So that's the first portion. Boom. And I wonder, I think I can mute. Can I mute tracks in the animator? I wonder, can I do that? I've never done that. Let's see. If I can't, this is another one of those pain in the ass things to work with the Unity system. I don't think I can. Let me just double check. Nope, I can't. Okay, so if you guys are familiar with something like um, Premiere Pro, right? Like, or if you've ever worked with Spine, which is a great animation tool for 2D sprites, you can mute a track. You can essentially like mute everything so that it doesn't play very easily in the editor and have only that thing play. In the Unity animator, you can't do that. Or I guess I don't know how to do that. So that's another reason why it's kind of a pain in the ass because I feel like you should be able to do that very easy. It's a very common thing to do. So if I just deleted all these, I can kind of show you guys, right? All that's doing is this, boom, 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 right? So if I go back, I'll just do, so then I have a color animation. So the color is just animating the color. And you could actually see this. I should have kind of shown this off. Showed this off, I should say. You can see these properties animating as I go, but you can see the color is essentially going, which one is this? Color 2. Sorry, brain, where are you? Where are you working? La la. Force field, sprite render, color. It's this. So it's animating the whole color from transparent to not transparent. So if I go here, you could see it's sort of subtly fading in. Um, then the rotation. Okay, so I have the rotation of my stripes sort of rotate into place. So they kind of go from 200 to 45 degrees. So you'll see if I were to remove that, let's just show you that. You'll see that my stripes don't rotate into place. They just kind of stay static, right? Uh, and then I have the material scale. So the scale of my material is, so you can't really see this one too much. It's a very subtle thing. But this, okay, so you see this like inner bound, it goes from being very large to smaller. So you can kind of see it right here. So it goes, let's see. This is a toughie. Oh, let me do this. Remove this scale. So you can see if I go, I don't know if you could see that now. It's kind of, and actually if I remove this rotation, it'll be even easier to see. You see that moving? Doot, doot, doot. Right? So if I zoom out, I'll just show you. It's a very subtle effect, but hopefully you could see it now. It's just like when all these things come together, I think it creates something kind of nice. Actually really nice. I'm really happy with how it came out. Don't be afraid to give yourself credit. All right, I struggle with this. It's like you're like, I think kind of. It's like, no, I think I did a good job. I'm proud of myself. Yeah, I have a son, and I'm gonna teach him that shit. So anyway, um, yes. So where was I? Move speed. So another thing I do is so the move speed essentially is just set at 0 to say, hey, don't move the stripes until you move into the active VFX. Yeah, visual effects, vertical effect. So yeah, you can see the stripes just stay static; they don't move. But in the active VFX, they'll start to sort of crawl along. So that's that. And then the color. So the color is so this one is controlling the color of the boundary dashes, if that makes sense. So essentially, I'm going from fully transparent on the boundary dashes to not transparent at all, um, or rather, fully transparent to opaque. So if I were to remove this, you'll see it's funny because when you see all these together, it's just kind of like, oh yeah. But when you take them out, I feel like it makes a big difference, which is interesting. So you could see, I don't know if you could see that now, like it just doesn't look as good. But if I were to pop that back, it just I don't know. It's a subtle thing, but I think it makes a bit like they all come together. You know what is it like? What's the saying? It's greater than the sum of its parts. That's kind of how I would describe it. So the offset, so the dash style offset. So what I'm doing is as it's coming in, I'm moving those dashes along too, right? So they're kind of rotating along. See how they kind of rotate? So if I remove it, you'll see immediately what I mean. You see, they don't rotate. But if I were to go back, subtle rotation. You see? Okay, so that is the active. So now we'll just go over the deactive because it's very, very simple. All it is it's the active played in reverse. So if you want to know what the active looks like, you just got to do this, right? All I do is in my animator, I say, hey, um, let's go to base layer. I say, hey, just play the active -1 speed. Play it in reverse. So that's what the deactivate does. The active, I'll go over. Da, da, da. The active is actually super simple. So my active does two things. It sets the stripe move speed to -0.1. So in my shader, I say, okay, give me a value, whatever value that is, I'll make these stripes move along at that speed. So remember in the activate, I had it at 0, so don't move it. So in the active, I say, hey, make sure you set this to -0.1. And it just repeats this, but negative zero point 0.1 over and over and over is negative zero point 0.1. So we don't have to worry about it repeating. I'm going to stop for a second because you might be able to hear an ambulance popping by. Um, and let me double check. Da, da, da. Cool. So yeah, so if I go here, it's crawling along, right? And then it just keeps crawling along, right? So the cool thing too is um with shapes, any integer, sorry, let's see. Actually, this probably should be 15. I don't know why it's not 15. But any integer um, will just be a nice smooth repeating pattern. So if I just go dot dot dot, it goes from 10 to 15. So if I go to the bounds outline, you'll see the offset is animating. So it's just moving in circles, move in circles, move in circles, move in circles, right? And then it repeats. But because it ends on an integer and this is a 10, it just essentially only seems like it only animates between a 0 and a 1, right? So you can see it's just moving along, moving along. Cool. So that is the active. And then the break that I'm not really happy with so far, that I'm still experimenting with, is we have a scale up, right? So that scale just pushes it out. We have a render color, which is uh, making it move to transparent, right? And then we have a stripe move speed, which essentially sets it back to 0. So it says like, hey, stop moving the stripes. We have a bounds color. So uh, this so this is essentially making these stripes turn to transparent too. And then the last one that I'm not really pumped with, that I kind of hate actually, but I was experimenting with, is making these bounds a little more, these dashed lines a little more thick for a period of time, right? And then kind of decreasing them. So you can see like if I were to move this up, you could see like it would make them even thicker. If I were to go like this, right? Like you see how kind of bah, bah, I don't love that. But something like this is kind of what I was aiming for. And maybe I just need to like move one of these nodes along. Stop selecting. Okay, maybe I just need to do something like this. I don't know. Let's just kind of experiment for a second here. Let's see, maybe something like this. Yeah, so you could see, I just kind of wanted some emphasis, right? Um, and this is kind of where this tool is kind of cool because I can just say like, hey, I want you to like, well, if I were to remove one of these, I could say like, hey, I want you to like slowly go out, right? Or I could overshoot and I could say like, do that. And that actually looks pretty decent. Or back, right? But it's a cool little tool, and you can kind of control. I honestly haven't worked with it a whole lot, but I think you can control also like how far you kick out, right? So if I were to set this maybe here, let's see. I don't know how this would work. I'm curious. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, that does not look great. But let's see. I actually kind of liked the one that we came up with halfway through here. Yeah, so another great thing about the animator, for all the the crap I'm talking about it, is also like undo just works by default. All that stuff. There's like a lot of strengths when you're. I would say when you're prototyping, this is what Unity's fucking great at. Unity is great for prototyping shit. I mean, it's great in general. I love Unity. For all of the shit that you know is not great about Unity, I think it's a great engine. I think they have good bones. I think I think Yeah, I'm pretty happy with Unity. I will say there's a lot of things I don't like that they've done, a lot of things that I'm still not happy with, but overall, they've done a pretty decent job. So I'm excited to see the new animation tool, but I will say, like, for prototyping your animations and VFX, the animator actually has worked pretty well. But what I'm likely going to do, I was going to do in this video, but I'm already at an hour, so I don't think I'm going to do it now with you guys on the stream, is I'm going to take what's in the animator and I'm going to probably enshrine it in like a do tween script or a feel feedback, because I I don't know. Like, I think the problem with the animator is there's a lot of gotchas. Okay, there's a lot of small little gotchas that I don't love, and arguably I could just use it like this, and I probably should. Maybe I'll have to consider that after I jump off the call. But there's a lot of just small little things that I feel like add up, and in the long run, they kind of bite you in the ass. And for that reason, I just feel more comfortable having things enshrined in a do train script or a feel component. Even feel, I feel like there's a few too many gotchas sometimes too with the feedbacks. Even though I've been pretty happy, I just kind of feel like do train's pretty bulletproof, so I'll probably go that direction. But all that to say, I think this is going to wrap up my live stream currently. I would love to know what you guys think about my VFX. Um, and yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out in the comments or jump on the Discord that we have going currently. And if you like what you see today, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. Yeah, I try to do these whenever I can, these live streams, just because I have a lot of fun doing them, sharing my knowledge of whatever, any knowledge I have on Unity, on scripting or programming, on the lessons I've learned from creating games, and also just showing off the progress of my game. I'm really happy with how it's coming together, and I'm super pumped about my new game mode coming out, Routes. Like, I cannot wait to get this shit out to you guys. It'll probably be out within the month. I've been saying that probably for 3 months now, but there's been a lot of life things that have come up. LA caught on fire for a month there, so forgive me. But yeah, guys, like I said, feel free to hit me in the comments. Let me know what you think about the VFX, and if you guys like these types of videos, please, please, please let me know. And also let me know if there's anything else you guys want to know more about my workflow, about, like, I'm literally happy to answer anything. Even if you guys want to talk money, I'm happy to talk money too. I don't really give a shit. Okay, guys, take it easy. Thank you guys for tuning in for whoever you did. And if you didn't tune in, thanks for watching the video.